So by this term impulse means the change in momentum. You can see mv minus mu. What does this mean? That means final momentum minus initial momentum. So only due to the change of momentum the impulse will be created, and for the sake of this impulse, if the turbine rotates, then it is known as impulse turbine. Understood or not? So impulse means, obviously in terms of unit, if you want to clarify it, the force unit is Newton and time units, if it is expressed by second, so Newton second will be the unit of impulse, and we all know Newton is expressed by kg meter per second square multiplied with second, so that way it will give you kg meter per second. So due to the change of momentum, if this turbine rotates, then it is known as impulse turbine. After completion of impulse turbine, we are going to enter in reaction turbine. That point of time, you people can see that turbine will rotate for the sake of change of pressure or drop of pressure. So but in case of impulse turbine, the turbine is responsible to rotate due to the generation of this impulse only. That means due to the change in momentum. Now how that momentum will going to drop? Obviously the steam, whatever it is coming from the nozzle, when it is going to enter in the turbine blade, the velocity of the steam gradually getting dropped inside the turbine blade, because inside the turbine blade some frictions will be there. By making the surface very smooth, you can reduce the friction, but obviously it cannot be zero. So due to the drop of velocity inside the turbine blade, the momentum will be getting dropped, momentum of the steam, because the steam is the working fluid over here. So that momentum drop creates an impulse, and due to that, the turbine is bound to rotate. So if I show you that how the pressure and velocity is going to change inside of nozzle and blade, so it can be shown like this. Suppose I am showing you one row of nozzle and one row of blade like this. Obviously in case of practical application, there will be multiple rows of nozzle and blade. That means one row of nozzle followed by one row of blade, then again second row of nozzle followed by second row of blade. Like this compounding has been done. That means multiple number of nozzle row and multiple number of blade row will be there. But I am showing you how the pressure and velocity of steam is going to change only for single row of blade and nozzle. Suppose these vertical lines representing one row. Now inside of one row, suppose this is our nozzle. Suppose this is our nozzle. I am taking a cross sectional view. I have cut a vertical cross section. Now it is look like this. Suppose this is the nozzle, and this is the row of blades. So blade basically always having a kind of aerodynamic shape, and in case of impulse turbine, these blades actually having a symmetrical shape. Most of the cases, the turbine blades, rather say impulse turbine blade, having a symmetrical shape. Suppose this is two blade I am drawing over here. This is two blade, cross section of blade. Basically those blades, if I take a cross section outside, so it will look like this. The steam will enter in this particular blade and it will glide away smoothly, because we always create this surface of blade very smooth. So the steam enters from here and glides away to the surface of blade. So now just I have placed two different blades mounted on a same rotor. Now the steam will enter like this and they will pass through this blade and go away. Now if there is multiple number of row, then after this second row of nozzle will be there, then second row of blade will be there. Like this the steam will be going to pass from first row to second row. Suppose this is I am drawing, that is one set of nozzle and blade. This drawing is giving that feeling. Okay, so that is the incoming flow of nozzle, that is the outgoing flow from the blade, that is a blade, cross section of blade. Now how the pressure and velocity is going to change inside the nozzle and inside the blade? See, inside the nozzle what will happen? Inside the nozzle obviously the pressure of the steam is going to drop, and for the sake of drop of pressure the velocity will be increased. So I am going to show you the pressure and velocity variation inside this nozzle zone and for the blade zone. How it will going to change? Suppose the steam is coming from the boiler. Two different curve I will show you, one for velocity and one for pressure. First, this line I am showing the pressure P, and this line I will show with the velocity, how they are going to change inside the nozzle. Obviously pressure will be getting dropped. See, the downward slope means pressure is going to drop inside the nozzle, and obviously if we consider the velocity, for the sake of pressure drop, velocity will be going to increase following this slope. These two lines, this red line is representing the variation of velocity, it is increased, and this black line showing the variation of pressure, it is decreased. Now in this zone, that is a clearance space, obviously in clearance space no change in pressure as well as no change in velocity will be there, so this line will be constant because that is a clearance space between nozzle and blade. So there in this clearance space no changes will be there. Now while that steam is going to enter in the blade, what change you can observe? Obviously during this gliding of the steam, the velocity gradually getting dropped. So that's why I am representing the red line for velocity. So velocity is going to drop like this. Because during the gliding of the blade, due to the friction, velocity is going to drop, but the pressure won't change at all. So pressure will be remain constant. That is the fundamental thing for impulse turbine, and the velocity drop will be converted into the similar amount of work done in terms of mechanical rotation of the turbine shaft. So if one energy is getting down, obviously kinetic energy is getting down, that kinetic energy is going to convert into the mechanical energy. But the concept what I am going to clear over here, inside the rotor blade, in case of impulse turbine, the pressure is not going to change at all. Pressure is constant inside the turbine blade. It is I am talking about impulse turbine, mind it. It will differ for reaction turbine inside the turbine blades, and velocity is going to drop inside turbine blade. That thing actually going to execute inside of nozzle and inside of blade. You can see inside, again I am repeating the thing, inside the nozzle the steam velocity is going to increase as well as pressure of the steam will going to drop. While it is entering in the blade, then the steam velocity is going to gradually drop, but the pressure will be remain constant. Pressure won't change at all for impulse turbine. Okay, up to this is, if there is any confusion, then please. Either let me know one thing, Shomodip. Why today is only 8 persons are present here? Do you have any idea?
No, sir.
Let me clear one thing. If you people are not interested to attend my class, so next week, today already I have started, so I can't stop it. Very frankly speaking, because if I haven't started, then I won't continue it obviously. But once I have started it, I have to finish the class for today. So just be here for today only. You don't have to take this kind of this amount of pain for you people from next week onwards. Next week, before of Wednesday, on Tuesday, if you people confirm me to attend the class, then I will start the class. Otherwise, I won't continue. Okay, chalo. Just bear the pain for today itself. From next week onwards, you don't have to bear. Okay. So up to this, what we have understood, that the pressure and velocity, how they are changing inside the nozzle and inside the blade. Now we are going to see a very important thing, that is a velocity diagram. If you don't know the velocity diagram, you cannot solve any numerical problem deals with turbine. So what does this mean, velocity diagram, and why it is so important? Velocity diagram means we are going to represent all the velocity of steam, graphically. Okay, how the steam is going to enter in the nozzle. After entering the nozzle, obviously it will come out and going to enter in the blade. So we are going to show you how the velocity is going to change inside the blade only, and all those velocities are going to represent graphically. Okay, suppose this is the nozzle I am talking about. Suppose this is the nozzle and the steam is coming inside the nozzle. It is nozzle. Okay, now the steam is going to out from this nozzle and it will going to hit the turbine blade. Suppose this is our turbine blade. All the time the turbine blades for impulse turbine, they will be symmetrical. That means if we consider an angle, inlet angle and the outlet angle, they will be remain same most of the cases. If it is not mentioned, always considering the blade angle, it should be symmetrical, inlet and outlet for an impulse turbine. Okay, now the steam is coming like this. Okay, though if we take this angle of nozzle, is made by alpha. I am taking our legend which is known as nozzle angle. That means nozzle is placed with some angle, with horizontal. I am taking that thing by alpha. You can say it is nozzle angle, as well as you can say, or it is inlet jet angle. Which jet I am talking about? The steam jet. Whatever it is coming out from the nozzle and going to enter the blade, that jet I am talking about. So inlet jet angle means the same thing like the nozzle angle. Now the steam is going to hit this turbine blade, and after hitting or after striking, what will happen? The turbine blade is going to rotate, isn't it? So I am giving the rotation of the turbine blade direction in this direction, obviously, because suppose the blade is placed like this and you are going to hit on this blade, so it will try to rotate. So on 2D plane, this is the direction of the rotation of the blade after hitting in this direction. Okay, so U, I am giving you that U. What is U? U is the velocity of the blade. And while I am saying velocity, the direction should be mentioned. Direction is in rightward direction, and the steam is coming this direction. Okay. Now the steam, whatever it is coming out from the nozzle in this direction, obviously some velocity will be there in the steam. That means the outlet velocity of the nozzle. I am taking that thing by V1. That this is the velocity of the steam which is coming out from the nozzle. I am representing that thing by V1. So V1 is the absolute velocity of steam inlet. Inlet means inlet of the blade. Why I am saying absolute? Because one relative velocity will be there. Because if the blade is rotating with some different velocity and the steam is coming with some different velocity, there will be some relative motion between them. Because you can see the blade is moving in rightward direction and steam is coming in this tangential direction. So there must be some relative motion among these two, isn't it? Because V1 and this U, if they are rotating in the same direction, then relative velocity will be V1 minus U. Or if I say this blade velocity, suppose I am taking V1 minus U. Why I am taking V1 minus U as a relative velocity? Relative velocity is a childhood concept, because the blade is rotating in this direction and the V1 is coming in this direction. So actually V1 is giving the force to the blade in the same direction. So while these two vectors acting in the same direction, V1 is also giving in this direction force. Obviously V1 must have two components. I will come to this. V1 must have two components. One will be acting in this direction and one will be acting in this direction. Because all the time, if any vector moving tangent inclined direction, so it must have two vectors. One should be vertical direction, one should be in horizontal direction. This horizontal direction vector is named as VW1 and the vertical direction vector is known as VF1. And with the effect of these two vectors, this absolute velocity can be moving in this inclined direction. Now while this absolute velocity V1 and the blade velocity U both acting in the same direction, then the relative velocity will be V1 minus U. And if they are acting in reverse direction, then the relative velocity will be addition of those two. Because the relative velocity is a very childhood concept. If two objects moving in the same direction, then relative velocity will be just subtraction of both those velocities. And if the two objects moving in opposite direction like this, then relative velocity will be addition of their velocity. Now here this V1 is giving the thrust to the blade in the same direction. So U and V1 both are having the same direction. That's why the relative velocity will be V1 minus U. And this relative velocity is expressed V1 minus U. This relative velocity I am expressing by VR1. R stands for relative, 1 stands for inlet part. Because at the outlet part I will give you subscript value of 2. Okay. So V1 is coming like this. V1 is coming like this, going to hit the blade, and obviously you can see the relative velocity will be less than V1. Okay, so now see, suppose I am removing this part, I will use this part afterwards. Now I am projecting this blade velocity from here up to here. I can do it here easily. Suppose this is the blade velocity U. I can replace it, because all the time if you maintain a direction of vector same, then you can replace that vector from one place to another place by maintaining the direction same. So if I maintain this U direction horizontal, I am keeping the direction same, so I can shift this vector from here to here. That concept is very well known concept. Always maintaining the direction same, you can shift one vector from one place to another place. So I can put this vector maintaining the direction same over here. Now if I join these 2 points, if I join from this point to this point, this direction will give you the velocity which is known as relative velocity. You can see VR1 is lesser value than V1. It is nothing but the resultant velocity. If two velocity, one is acting in horizontal direction and one is acting in this direction, their resultant will be obviously this one, and that resultant will be the lesser one, because you can see VR1 is subtraction value of V1 minus U. So this one will be the relative velocity. Relative velocity of what? Relative velocity of the inlet velocity of the jet and the blade velocity. This is the VR1, which is known as relative velocity. Relative velocity between incoming velocity of jet and the blade velocity. Okay, now where I am going to place this alpha? So obviously alpha will be placing over here. This is the V1, this is the VR1, this is blade velocity, and alpha is the nozzle angle. Now already I shown you people that if V1 is inclined, then it must have two components. One will be the vertical component and one will be the horizontal component, isn't it? Because every time if you have one vector like this, suppose this is a V1 vector and it is having an angle of alpha, then it must have one vertical component and one horizontal component. With the help of these two vectors, this V vector is moving inclined, otherwise it cannot go inclined every point of time. So this horizontal vector I am taking like VW1 and this vertical vector I am taking like VF1. This VW1 is nothing but it is called as wheel velocity. Wheel velocity. Why this one is placed? Because for the inlet part. Wheel velocity means for the sake of this velocity, the turbine blades actually having a kind of wheel. Wheel, do you people understand? Kind of rotational flow. And due to this VF1 is known as velocity of flow. VF1 is known as velocity of flow. You can see this VF1 is having a direction perpendicular. So it will act in the perpendicular direction of the turbine shaft. And this VW1 is the actual responsible vector which is rotating the turbine blade, because it is acting tangential direction. So now I am going to place this vector and this vector over this velocity diagram. Okay, so V1, you can see that V1, if I maintain the direction same, so V1 can be shifted over here also. This is V1 can be written. And if VW1, if I maintain the direction same, so it can be placed on the top also, just shifting the vector. So that way I can use this diagram like this way now. This is the VR1 and this vector is now coming to VF1, that is the velocity of flow, and this vector is known as this whole vector, that is VW1. See, VW1 is the horizontal component of V, or rather say V1. So V1 is this vector. Horizontal component of this vector will be the whole part, That's why I have taken VW1 this one. And VF1 is the vertical component of V1. This is V1. So vertical component, you can place this direction. If I pick this vector from here and place it over here, so it can be located here also. See, I have maintained the same direction, and VW1 direction will be this one. You have to maintain the direction of the vector same, otherwise it will be a wrong one. Okay, So V1 having two component, one is vertical component Vf and the horizontal component VW. Did recording has been stopped that point of time, why it is delinked. Now again I have started, but some portion will be omitted. So change in momentum in tangential direction, that will give you the tangential thrust. Now what is the change in momentum? That means I can write change in momentum like mass into change in velocity, isn't it? Change in velocity, because mass will be remain same. Mass is never going to change. If I take that mass flow rate, it will be better, because that is mass flow rate. Mass flow rate means mass flowing for how much time, and that is change in velocity. Now the change in velocity obviously will be in tangential direction, and that is already measured. So what it is giving you? It is giving you that is m dot multiplied with del VW. Del VW means the change in velocity in tangential direction. So it is nothing but m dot within bracket VW1 plus VW2. That will be the tangential thrust, nothing else. Okay. Now can we express this VW1 and VW2 in terms of some trigonometrical application? See there. Yes, it is possible. See. First one. See, can I write that del VW? Just brush your class 9, 10, 11, 12 trigonometrical application. See, del VW is VW1 plus VW2. VW1 plus VW2. So find VW1 from here. VW1 can be written by V1 cos alpha. Just check the diagram properly and tell me, is it possible or not?
Yes, that's possible.
Thank you. Then go for the V2. V2 can be written by V2.
Cos beta.
Yes, write it like that. V2 cos beta. If anyone having any problem, then please. Again, can I write? I can change this relation again further. Again, del VW. Can you write it in terms of relative velocity? This component. Can I write this whole term in terms of relative velocity? Here I can see it is written in terms of absolute velocity. Can I write that same thing in the respect of relative velocity? Yes, we can. Can you write it like this? VR1 cos theta plus VR2 cos phi. See the diagram. VR1 cos theta means this one, this amount, plus VR2 cos phi. VR2 cos phi means the whole amount from here to here, because this is VR2 and this angle is phi. So VR2 cos phi means from this point to that point, and VR1 cos theta means this amount. So if you add them both, then you can get this VW1 plus VW2. Are you getting me or not?
Yes, sir.
Just simple trigonometry. Now if you take VR1 cos theta as common from here forcefully, then it will be 1 plus VR2 by VR1 cos phi by cos theta. If I take VR1 cos theta forcefully common, so this equation will be look like this. Why I am doing so? I am doing this just for the sake of, I already mentioned, for symmetrical blading theta equals to phi, then these both term will be cancelled each other, and this part VR2 by VR1, it is a very important part. VR2 means relative velocity at exit, and VR1 is the relative velocity at inlet. and this factor, this relative ratio between two relative velocity is known as Kb. Kb is nothing but blade friction factor. Why it is important? Because you can see VR2 at the outlet of the blade velocity, it will obviously getting dropped due to the friction of the blade, and this ratio will give you that particular sense that how much dropping is there due to the friction. That's why this factor is known as blade friction factor. It is represented by Kb, and it is nothing but VR2 by VR1. How much dropping in is there due to the friction of the blade. So now this expression can be expressed like this: VR1 cos theta 1 plus Kb. Kb is a factor which is a ratio between relative velocity at outlet and relative velocity at inlet. Most of the times it is given in the problem. If it is mentioned there is no friction, it is actually not happen. In practical case it can be equal to 1. Most of the cases some percentage is given there, some 0.3 or 0.4. Okay, so this is the expression which finally stands for del VW. Now again you can change this VR1 cos theta. See why I am writing this different kind of expression, because depending on the data given you have to convert the relation in a different manner. Now VR1 cos theta, see the diagram. VR1 cos theta, can you write it like V1 cos alpha minus u? See, V1 cos alpha minus u into 1 plus Kb. See the diagram. VR1 cos theta means this particular part, only this part, that can be written V1 cos alpha means this portion, V1 cos alpha, this length, minus u. So only this part will be remain there. So can you write VR1 cos theta equals to V1 cos alpha minus u? Tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Simple childhood trigonometrical application. Why I am writing in different form? Because depending on the value given, I have to choose the right relationship. You can solve that del VW by using this relation also. But if the values are provided, if alpha, beta, V1, V2 it is available to you, then you can use this relation. Otherwise you can go to this relation or that relation also. All of them will give the same value of del VW. Understood? So after getting this, oh sorry, why I am putting 1 here. After getting this relationship, if you put it over here, and if you have the value of mass flow rate of steam, then you can find the tangential thrust. Understood?
Yes, sir.
And this tangential thrust is the actual thrust which is responsible to rotation of that particular turbine blade. Now if we go for the axial thrust, which velocity actually responsible for the axial thrust? This VF2 or VF1, they are the axial component, and they are actually putting some thrust on the bearing. It will damage the bearing, but it cannot be avoided actually. So axial thrust also can be measured if you do this kind of calculation. Axial thrust is the same thing, change in momentum in axial direction. Axial direction means this is the direction which is I am talking about, axial direction, and tangential direction, this is the tangential direction. This is tangential and this is axial direction. And in axial direction this VF force is velocity is working. So obviously change in momentum, the mass flow rate will be there, and the velocity drop obviously will be measured in terms of VF1 minus VF2, because that is the velocity component which is responsible to create the axial thrust. Now apply that same trigonometrical application. VF1 can be written like V1 sin alpha, and VF2 can be written like V2 sin beta. isn't it? Mind it, you can choose any other relationship also, like Vf1 can be replaced by Vr1 cos theta also. Vr1 cos theta will give you the same Vf1 value, isn't it? So I can write that same relation in a different form also. Vr1 sin theta minus, and Vf2 can be written Vf2 can written Vr2 sin phi, Vr2 sin phi, isn't it? So the same relation, this one will give you the same value of this one. I am representing in a different way by which you can understand that which relation I should choose. Okay. Now after having this axial thrust and tangential thrust, then we should go with some work done. So first work done which is responsible here, that is known as blading work. How much blade work will be produced? So that term is known as blading work, or it can be known as diagram work. Some different term actually used, but they are same. Diagram work is also, or rather say diagram power. All these three terms are frequently used. Any one of them, they are same. Diagram power. These three terms actually same. That is expressed by WD, and that is nothing but tangential thrust. Tangential thrust, whatever I have find out just earlier of this, tangential thrust, it is expressed by PT. Tangential thrust. And if it is multiplied with blade velocity, that is blade velocity. So force multiplied with velocity, that is giving you some power, because force coming with Newton unit and velocity coming with meter per second. So Newton meter per second will give you what? Nothing else. Childhood concept. So which velocity I am taking here? Blade velocity, because I am considering the blading work. Okay. So tangential thrust already we have find out. So put this value. So m dot Vw1 plus Vw2 multiplied with blade velocity, and that blade velocity, tangential blade velocity, can be find out using this relationship pi dn by 60. If you know the RPM of the blade and if you know the diameter of the blade, then you can easily find out that diameter of the rotor actually. You can find out the tangential velocity of the blade. So put all those values over there, you can get the diagram power. Obviously Vw1 and Vw2 can be find out using some different trigonometrical application. Okay. So after getting this value, then if you try to find out that diagram efficiency, diagram work, then coming to blading work or diagram work, they are same actually. So from there you can also find out diagram efficiency or blading efficiency. Both of these terms are same. Efficiency is generally expressed by eta. That's why I am writing eta. Eta means efficiency. So it is expressed by eta B, or it can be also written by eta D. Eta B means efficiency, that is known as blading efficiency. Eta D means diagram efficiency. It can be expressed, efficiency always expressed by some output to input. So what is the output here? The diagram work, whatever I have find out over here. And what is the input here? Input is the inlet energy. What is the inlet energy? That is the kinetic energy of the steam, whatever you are giving in. So I can write this relation like this: diagram work, that is the output, and inlet input energy, what is that? That is the kinetic energy of steam. Kinetic energy of steam coming out from the nozzle. Coming out from nozzle. That is the input energy to the turbine, isn't it? So diagram energy work already I have find out. And what is the kinetic energy of the steam which is coming to the nozzle turbine? First put it over there. It is Pt into U. P2 into U means this expression. So put it like this. That whole expression I am putting. M dot Vw1 plus Vw2 into U. and kinetic energy of the steam which is coming to the turbine, that is half m dot, that is the mass flow rate of steam, with the absolute velocity of the steam, because that is the velocity of the steam which is coming out of the nozzle. At the beginning of the velocity diagram I have shown you people that this is the velocity of the steam which is coming out of the nozzle and going to enter in the turbine. So that is the kinetic energy of the steam which is coming out of the nozzle and going to enter in the turbine. So from m dot it will be cancelled. So the final expression will look like these two will be going to shift at the numerator side. So the final expression will look like 2, and VW1 plus VW2 will be there, U will be there, and V1 square will be there. That is the diagram efficiency or blading efficiency. This term is very important. Most of the times this term is going to find out. And if anybody asks you what is the nozzle efficiency also, nozzle efficiency means eta. So eta n means nozzle efficiency. So nozzle efficiency can be find out using this relation, that kinetic energy of steam at nozzle output, that is the output of nozzle, divided by input energy of the nozzle. Input energy of the nozzle, what was that? Input energy of nozzle. This part already we have find out in our previous class, that is the actually isentropic heat drop inside the nozzle. So see, this expression can be written like half m dot V1 square, that is the kinetic energy of the steam going out of the nozzle, and input energy of the nozzle, that is m dot multiplied with heat drop. This is the heat drop, isentropic heat drop inside the nozzle. Already I have told this thing in our previous class, heat drop in nozzle. How it can we find out? Using that enthalpy values, H1 minus H2, the enthalpy at the inlet of the nozzle and enthalpy at the outlet of the nozzle. If you get these values from the steam table, subtract them. From there you can value this, get this HD value. So similarly, if you cancel this m term, so it will give you V1 square by 2HD. That is the nozzle efficiency. Mind it that HD is the isentropic heat drop inside the nozzle, and that can be find out if you get those values, enthalpy values, from the steam table. So this is diagram efficiency, this is nozzle efficiency. Now the last thing I should consider over here, that is the stage efficiency. Stage efficiency means one set of nozzle and one set of blade, they conclude on stage. Okay, so stage efficiency means obviously I have to consider both. Stage efficiency, it is expressed by eta S, and it is written by blading work divided by isentropic heat drop in the nozzle. See, I have taken the whole thing, isentropic heat drop in nozzle. Blading work means the extreme output of the turbine, and the isentropic heat drop in nozzle, that is the input part of the nozzle. That way I have covered the whole thing, one stage. Input of the nozzle, that is the extreme left part of the stage, and blading work is the extreme right part of the stage. One stage means one row of nozzle and one row of blade, that constitute one stage. So stage efficiency means one stage input and one stage output. One stage output is blading work and one stage input is isentropic heat drop in nozzle. Understood? So finally, if I use the expression whatever we have derived, that blading work is represented by m dot, already I have written just before of this one, VW1 plus VW2 into U, it was the blading work, and isentropic heat drop, that is nothing but m dot H1 minus H2, that is the isentropic heat drop. Okay, if suppose any value, always you have to take it in care that unit should be same. If the numerator part giving you in terms of kilo unit, suppose in kilojoule, then the bottom part also should come with some kilojoule. That always should be taken care in the term of unit. Okay, now after cancelling this m, both of this m term, it will be left out term will be there. Suppose I am representing is HD, so it will be shorter in size. HD means the enthalpy drop. Okay, so that is the expression for stage efficiency. Now see what I am going to show over here. I am removing this diagram. I have to use this space. This stage efficiency eta s, can I write like this? Just check. Intentionally I am writing this like this way. Just let me allow to write it, then you can understand is it possible or not. See, I haven't done nothing special over here, just 2 is multiplied over there, so 2 is divided also, and V1 square forcefully brought here, so just I have placed one more V1 square over here, so nothing special has been done. Why I am doing so? Because now you can see this part will give you eta B, that means bleeding efficiency or diagram efficiency, whatever you say. You can write eta B or you can write eta D also. Sorry? M is getting cancelled, numerator and denominator. Oh, sorry. Thank you. U part is there, na? I have actually forgot to skipped it actually. Okay, so this left hand part will give you the bleeding efficiency or diagram efficiency, and the right part will give you the nozzle efficiency. That is the relation actually I am trying to build over here. That's why I have shuffled the relationship like this. So that is a very important relationship which is giving you stage efficiency is nothing but multiplication result of blade efficiency and the nozzle efficiency. Now tell me, up to this, is it clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Now one very crucial question always comes most of the time in year semester exam, that find out the maximum diagram efficiency and for which value you can get this maximum diagram efficiency. That means you have to find out the condition. To achieve the maximum diagram efficiency. That a very common question. Most of the year question you can see that question comes. That what is the maximum diagram efficiency and for which condition? Actually they ask you the condition. On which condition you can achieve maximum diagram efficiency. So it can be find out very easily. See, if you want to maximize any term, mathematically what do we do? Tell me beta, क्यों जानो ना? If you want to find out or if you want to achieve the maximum kind of thing, then what do we do mathematically?
So derivative of 0.
Exactly. So why we do a maxima minima concept? It's a mathematical concept. So if I want to achieve to get maximum eta D means diagram efficiency. So I place it by eta D. Diagram efficiency is more common term, but mind it, diagram efficiency and bleeding efficiency they are same. To get maximum eta D, what we do? We do nothing special. We do the derivative of this expression and make it with equal to 0, just using the maxima minima concept, nothing else. Okay, now first try to create this particular efficiency in terms of some trigonometrical application, whatever we have used. So just write this expression eta D, whatever it is there, I am converting that relationship in some different manner. See, 2u by v1 square, keeping it out, and that vw1 plus vw2 I am writing in this form, v1 cos alpha minus u 1 plus kb. That form already I have mentioned earlier how it is coming, vw1 plus vw2, how it is coming like this. Can you people understand? I have to draw the diagram again. Because I don't need more time to draw this particular diagram again. If you draw it simultaneously, it will be very easy for you to draw again. This is u, and this one is mentioned by alpha, I think. Yes, it was alpha, it was theta, it was phi, it was beta, v1, vr1, vf1, vr2, v2, vf2, vw2, and this one is vw1. This was the diagram. Now vw1 and vw2, can I write like this or not? Basically, just before of this I have shown you people how it is coming. I think you can understand. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Then what I am doing now, see, if I take u 2u 1 v1 square plus v, so just do a different, a very slight change like this one, pushing one v1 inside. So this v1 will be getting cancelled, it will be only cos alpha and it will be u by v1. See, the rest of the things are remain same. How or why I am doing this? How you can do this? Very easily. If I put 1 by v1 inside, it will be change like this way. But why I am doing this? Because this ratio u by v1, what this ratio gives us? U means the velocity of the blade and v1 is the velocity of the steam inlet. That ratio is known as velocity ratio. This rho is known as velocity ratio, and it is expressed by u by v1. U means the blade velocity, v1 is the steam velocity or absolute velocity of the steam at inlet. Okay, so I can express that diagram efficiency now this way. 2u by v1 is also there, so I can write it 2 rho. It is rho, nothing but rho, and inside bracket cos alpha minus rho 1 plus kb. So kb is blade friction factor and rho is the velocity ratio. Now this ratio, this expression is look like this. Understood? Now I am going to derive or differentiate, sorry, not derive, I am going to maximize this efficiency. So what should I do? I should do differentiating that expression, and with respect to which parameter I should differentiate. I should differentiate this expression with respect to this rho. Why? Because rho is the variable one. It can vary. That is the velocity of the steam which is coming out from the nozzle. That can be adjusted, it can be increased, it can be decreased according to the valve flow, as well as u also will be varying with the velocity value of v1. If you increase the v1, blade velocity will increase. If you decrease the v1, then blade velocity also will decrease. That's why this ratio u by v1, this ratio can be adjusted, but the nozzle angle, it will be remain constant, as well as kb, it is depending on the friction of the blade, it will also remain constant. That's why depending on rho, I have to differentiate this whole expression and make it equal to 0. Now if we differentiate this particular expression with respect to rho, then obviously this 1 plus kb term will be constant. So 1 plus kb will be coming out at the front, and the rest of term, see, it's a very easy differentiation. I think you people can capable to understand how it is giving you this kind of shape, isn't it? Because 2 rho cos alpha, 2 cos alpha is a constant term. Differentiate rho with respect to rho, it will give you 1. And now this is 2 rho square. 2 rho square will give you 4 rho. And this is 0. If you have any confusion, then please tell me. Now if you just 1 plus kb will be cancelled with 0. Finally, it will give you 2 cos alpha equals to 4 rho, and it will give you rho equals to cos alpha by 2. So that is the actually rho optimum. Why it is rho optimum? Because that is the value of rho which is the best possible rho to achieve the maximum efficiency. That's why I am writing that is rho optimum, cos alpha by 2. Now rho means what? Rho means u by v1. So u by v1 equals to, I can wipe this particular part now. From here I can write, so rho optimum, it is nothing but equals to cos alpha by 2, and it is equal to u by v1, because rho is nothing but u by v1, that is the velocity ratio. Now if you want to find out the maximum efficiency value, eta d max, if you want to find out, then what will be that? I have to put this expression onto that efficiency expression, then you can achieve the, what will be the maximum efficiency value, isn't it? Because this is the expression of diagram efficiency. If you put this rho optimum value over here, then you can achieve the maximum efficiency. Okay, so what will be that? Put that cos alpha by 2 in place of rho in both the sides. So it will give you 2 cos alpha by 2 in place of rho, inside of bracket cos alpha minus again rho, so again cos alpha by 2 will be there, 1 plus kb is also there. Now if you simplify it, 2 cancelled, this one will be 2 cos alpha minus cos alpha, means cos alpha by 2 multiplied with cos alpha, then it will give you cos square alpha by 2. Do the calculation, it will be giving like this. That is the maximum efficiency. If anybody asks you what will be the maximum efficiency, diagram efficiency maximum value, this one. Now if we implicate some condition over here, like if we assume that there is no frictional loss, if we consider no frictional losses, because it is a hypothetical thing, ideal case, no frictional losses, then eta d maximum will be changed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so if the frictional loss is neglected, then kb value will be obviously 1, because VR2 and VR1 will be remain same, because it is VR2 and VR1 is different because there is friction. If there is no friction, kb will be 1. Then if you put kb1, then 2 will be cancelled, then it will be only cos square alpha. So cos square alpha will be the maximum diagram efficiency if you do not consider there is any friction. Understood? That is the expression if kb value is 1. If you don't consider kb1, then that is the maximum efficiency. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So to achieve this maximum efficiency, what is the condition you have to maintain? So I can write, to achieve this maximum efficiency always I will write by eta. To achieve this maximum efficiency, what will be the condition? What will be the condition you have to maintain? what will be the condition? The condition is very same. Use this thing. U by V1 is nothing but half cos alpha. Half cos alpha I am writing like this, 0.5 cos alpha. That is the condition you have to maintain. What does this mean? That means if you change this relation like this, put this V1 onto that side, so it will give you 0.5 V1 cos alpha. Now see the diagram. V1 cos alpha is nothing but VW1. See the diagram. V1 cos alpha, this is the alpha angle. V1 cos alpha is nothing but VW1, isn't it? Any confusion?
No, sir.
So V1 cos alpha can be replaced by VW1 by 2. 0.5 can be written again half. That is the condition what I am trying to build over here. Finally I get the condition. What is that? The condition is look like velocity of the blade will be half of tangential velocity of the steam. That is the condition what we are trying to build. Blade velocity, that condition, if I write it in word, blade velocity is nothing but, give me 1 second. Blade velocity nothing but equal to tangential velocity at inlet divided by 2. That is the condition we have to achieve if you want to get maximum efficiency.